you can tell when you've moved out of soul alignment, you can just feel it, where it's like, for me, it was so, I mean, we literally are just on different worlds. And, like the father of my kids, like we came together to have those kids. We came together, I had a supernatural experience through something that happened between us that was really tragic. It was the death of a loved one. And because of that, I had an awakening. And that was part of our soul contract, that in that relationship and in that conflict, I would wake up to some gifts that were latent. And, he chose to go a different way and I chose to go a different way. And it's okay.
Hello, hello, Karin, and welcome to the Dream Your Life podcast. I am so happy that you're here today.
Thank you, Julia. I've been so looking forward to this. We had to postpone a little bit because we're both moms and life gets in the way. But I kind of love when another mom is like, I really want to go do this, because I'm like, you're just like me, and we don't apologize. We're just like, if that works for you. And I'm like, moms get it. So I'm so glad that this worked out today.
I know. Thank you. Yeah. The last time we were supposed to record, last minute, it was my son's preschool. Was it the
It was camp. And so my kids are all doing camp too. Your daughter. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, of course, sister, I got you. It'll happen exactly when it's supposed to happen. But those kids, they're a priority and you want to be in those moments. So full support.
Thank you so much for that. And this wasn't the second time. So Karin, we were just talking about how I had actually reached out to you almost 2+ years ago on Instagram. You had somehow ended up in my search or in my feed, or the universe presented you, whatever. And I remember looking at your content, and it wasn't even the content. It was like your energy. It was your energy. And I was like, I really want to talk to this woman. And we've gone back and forth a little bit. And then it was from my personal account, which I don't use anymore because that was like before I even started the Dream Your Life account. And then it's all, I guess that dwindled or whatever. But then the universe is like, no, the divine timing is now.
Now, I know, I love that. That's so cool to me when, because so a team had reached out to me. And then when I went to send her a message, and when I scrolled up, I was like, we've already talked. Oh my gosh, exactly 2 years ago. And so it's very cool. And that's something that I'm sure you share a lot, that I share a lot too. You just have to trust the divine timing. Like if things aren't working out in a certain moment, they're just not meant to work out on the moment. The universal forces are orchestrating a calendar appointment that's going to be perfect, because you're going to have knowledge there that's going to coalesce into something super magical that wouldn't have, 2 years ago.
100%. And oh my God, so many directions we can take this. But I think one of the reasons is because of what happened with Wit, and then your experience with your son. And we talked about this a little bit over DMs, which I want to touch on. But before we do any of this, because there's so much here, I want to start with gratitude. So Karin, 3 things that you are grateful for today.
Let's see. I'm very grateful for the fact that I have a pool right now, because it's 100 almost degrees here in Atlanta. And
oh my God.
When I moved into this house, I'm a single mom with 3 kids. I really wanted to have a pool, and this house presented itself a couple of years ago. And it's an old pool, but I'm like, every time I go out there, I have so much joy. And the other day I expressed it when I was out there, and I'm going to get to the other 2, but I wanted to share this with people because synchronicities will show up when you're in your highest energy, your highest frequency. And for me, it's always Hawk. And I was out there last week and I was by myself. The kids were at camp, and I literally threw my arms open and I was like, universe, I am so happy that I have a pool. And at the exact moment, a hawk flew down on the branch, like right in front of me, and just was like staring at me. I'm like, universe kicks ass. That is so awesome.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Things like that happen. So I'm grateful for also, my hawk. One was just circling. My son and I were just out of the pool before I came on, and hawk just circles us, and it was screeching. And I just, you can send love to God's creatures, and they can feel it. There's telepathy between all beings. We're all one. And so I just sat and just sent him so much love. So I'm grateful for that hawk. And then my son Hoyt, who you had referenced, I have 3 kids, but he's my youngest, and he and I have had a few days by ourselves because the other 2 are at camp. And that's really special stuff. Last night we went to this rooftop carnival area at the Ponce City Market here in Atlanta. And we just played and sweated and laughed. And it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just that time and they remember it and you remember it. So I'm very
Oh,
grateful for that
I
alone time.
love that. How old are your kids?
So I have 15-year-old boy girl twins. Well, they're 15 in a few weeks. And then Hoyt just turned 13. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay, I want to ask about the hawk again. But first, Karin, can you just share who you are, what you do, who you serve?
So I am a life coach. I'm a reformed therapist. I have a PhD in counseling and education. So I've got a really grounded backward. That was a funny Freudian slip. Sometimes the old psychology is backward. I will tell you.
Yeah.
Background. I love when that happens.
Yeah.
Backward background. So I'm really grounded in research and clinical work, but I had a spiritual awakening and then I became a life coach, kind of a soul guide. And so I really am here to help people, usually women, remember how powerful they are. I mean, it's that simple. I can expand on it. And it's almost always about self love. I mean, that's kind of the long and short of it. And that answer changes whichever day I'm answering it. But
Yeah.
I'm here to help you remember. Before it was, I want to like help you get there. But literally this week, Spirit has told me through many ways. It's not that you are helping them discover something that's in front of them. It's that they're remembering who they were born to be. This is a remember. You're bringing your soul, mind, and body back. There's a remember as the members come together, and so that piece is profound in itself. And so I usually serve women. I do work with men as well, but it tends to be people that have gone through really big life transformations. Very often it's divorce, but I meet people usually when they're having their awakening and they just literally don't know like which steps to take. So I've written like, soul guides and things like that. But my favorite clients are the ones that are like just waking up. They know there's more. They're like, just like with you, with your people, like
Yeah.
they can relate to the energy. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if we vibe, then we must have a soul thing. And then we gotta
Yeah.
work together.
So on that, because we were just saying before we hit record, you had been listening to some of the recent podcast episodes, and you're like, I'm loving this awakening that's happening for you because it
Yeah.
is. This is what
Yeah.
I feel like. I'm like my spirit guides. I did a session, and they're like, this is your initiation. Like, and I felt like the last 2 months, especially, I'm seeing things, I'm feeling things in such a different way, and it feels so powerful because of it and so connected. But from your perspective, Karin, like, why is this remembrance important? Why do we want to remember when we think about just this life? How does that help us?
Oh my gosh. It's so everything. See, as you awaken, and I told Julie when we popped on that I've been binging on her. And what I've loved that you've done, which was coming up for me as you were asking, is you share in real time when the doubt pops in, right? Like it was something you said on one of your last podcasts about being in contact with angels. And then you free thought it, you said, gosh, I don't even know if I believe that. Then or no, it was a ghost thing. And
Oh
then you
yeah.
came back and you said, and you were like, yeah, I do. But I love that you say that because like we're trying to remember, but we have been programmed in a world that we've agreed to come to that has a very heavy, dense program. And so, it starts with being with parents who also were programmed. It's actually the better word is deprogrammed. And the frequency on the planet has changed. The reason why you're waking up and I'm sure you will have millions of people following you, and I've got them following me that are waking up. I mean, you're a star seed. You're here to help people awaken as you awaken. And, that remembering is going back to source within us. I use the word source for God now because I believe it's a source of energy. I don't believe it's a man with a beard anymore, like I was taught. Unless you want to picture that in your mind. And if you connect to that, that's cool. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter to
Yeah.
me. But for me, I'm like, I'm getting chill bumps all over us. So whenever you get chill bumps, your spirit
I
team is
have
really
that
close to you.
too. Why is
Yeah.
that? That's
It's because
weird.
yeah, all up and down. When your spirit team gets super close, their frequency is really, really high. And so it sends, yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You're, yeah. Ooh, they're dosing me like heavy, heavy right now. They're so close. And so they want to speak through us. And so, whenever you're going into flow on here, you're going into channel, you're speaking, it's your higher self, but you're connected to your whole team. And so you're in flow. And when you feel those chill bumps, they're letting you know this is important and we're right here. And oh yeah, Jesus energy is all over my back. I've got all of
Oh
it
my
everywhere. So yeah,
gosh.
chill bumps up and down. So always trust that when you're getting chill bumps, whatever you're hearing or whatever you're feeling or whatever's flowing through you is from spirit, and your team is there, like they're right there helping you with the words or helping you download. Um,
Oh my God, that's so
so
beautiful.
yeah, so it means it's profound, and it's the remembering, because we're taught to trust outside of ourselves, right? Because the powers that have been for centuries, and we don't need to go off on this, y'all can all
Yeah.
do your own research, but the powers that have been, I mean, have wanted to take power away from people. And we're going through this great awakening right now. And we're remembering, because we have our own power within us. We don't need a conduit. We don't need to disbelieve. We even have the power to heal ourselves. I mean, there's amazing research. Joe Dispenza is leading it right now, showing you the
Yeah.
power of your mind, how to heal yourself. I mean, you've got Jesus energy in your hands. You've got so much divinity in you that is so sacred, but we were taught to forget that because certain systems have wanted to control. And in this remembering, we're empowering ourselves, and we're returning to our sovereign power. Now, every system is not going to like it. There is resistance, and we're experiencing it in real time. But I will tell you, every person that is here listening, you chose to be here right now at this exact moment. You chose to listen in this exact moment. There is no mistake. All up and down. Yeah, me too. Nonstop. You chose to be here at this exact moment. There's no mistake that you're here during the Great Awakening, because you're here to serve a purpose in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
much. I know.
So
I'm
powerful.
preaching.
And this is like, I mean, I have serious goosebumps all over. And it's not even like this is new to me. I've thought about this. I think about this. Um, One question I have for you. I was just reading Mike Julie's book, and the one that was channeled by Sarah Landon. And they
Mm.
talk about this idea of like, in the contract, we chose to forget. Like we wanted to forget so that we could experience it all. But yet this awakening is about remembering. So did our beings want to remember and break this code? Is this like a new paradigm? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. You're nailing it. Yes, it's so, and I'm still learning too. Look, my awakening started in 2014, and I listen the same as you. Like, I have my people I follow, so I'm downloading every day as well. My understanding is that yes, we did chose to have the amnesia. It's part of life on Earth. I do believe that there's life in many, many other dimensions, many other places. And Earth is the hardest school, because we've got a very dense experience. It's a very 3D experience. And that means that it's very much about black and white in many ways. There's a right and wrong. There is competition. There's, taking your power away. There's just all this external kind of locus of control. And so those of us that are here right now, we chose to be here and to forget. But you're right, there's a remembering, because we're shifting in frequency. And even our children that have come in, and I know we could get into this later, but the kids that have been born this generation, our kids were born in a higher frequency, right? So they're I could talk about this all day. I'm trying to stay on topic, but
No, this
they
is on
are,
topic.
yeah, they're processing and they're healing, and they're teaching us on a very different frequency, because they, just like our parents, came at a denser frequency that was, post-war, or our grandparents,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
survival, and that was necessary. Well, here's the deal, like, suffering is no longer necessary. Yes, we're going to go through suffering circumstances, but you have so much free will here. You can choose to suffer and be in bondage. You can choose that, but you can also choose to be free. And so this remembering is, we are here at this time during this awakening, yes, to bring that source back through us. And so I believe it's the return of Christ. This is, and if this doesn't settle with anybody, like, that's it. But just listen for a minute,
Yeah.
because I was raised in a very conservative Christian home, and I was taught it was going to be a very, tactical experience with the, Jesus coming down, and who knows, I could be wrong, but the way that I feel, and I believe that it is now, is that's what you were just discussing, or in your question, is we're going through this awakening because it's actually Christ consciousness coming back through us, that we're waking up. And you can call it a ton of different
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
but people tend to relate to that. And it's the energy of the Christ. It's the energy of all divine beings and ascended masters coming through us, because you are an ascended master. You have that. We are all one. You have that energy in your DNA. And so what's happening right now is we are unlocking our DNA. We have that latent DNA. I mean, do y'all really think we have like latent DNA? I mean, if with your smart brain, think about like we have DNA, like junk DNA. You really think that we would be created as a divine creature with junk DNA? I mean, we are literally decoding the DNA that's helping us remember how to heal ourselves, how to tap into Mother Earth and use that energy as sacred healing energy. I mean, how to help each other ascend to frequencies of enlightenment and joy and stay there despite what happens in the external. And I can go on and on and on.
Yeah, so
I'm
with
so passionate
this,
about it.
well, I love it because I am too. And I've always, and I think, and I have talked about this on the podcast because I want to believe that this isn't this like hard knock life school, but rather like we can create like heaven on earth. Look, and
Yeah.
to me, that is so beautiful, but yet I understand the other side, which is the dichotomy, the duality, the contrast, and this idea to expand, we need to experience both. And so I'm really, I don't know, I like when you think about us all awakening and moving into this even higher vibration and continuously moving into these higher vibrations and higher frequencies where there doesn't have to be suffering, where it can be beautiful and joyful, then does that kind of like almost defeat the whole idea of like earth, like in and incarnation and like experiencing things? I don't know, like are we just all going
Right.
to become
It's a big
ascendant
question.
masters and then earth school goes away or what? Like,
Well, I think that we are lifetimes in evolution towards that. Like we will experience some of it as we're here now, but I do think this is going to be, a progression. I From what I'm hearing, I follow a lot of Dolores Cannon, Barbara
yeah,
Marciniak. I listen to Abraham Hicks all the time.
me
And
too.
I'm trying to understand it myself. My understanding is that we're not going to pop into like a new earth, this hot minute. It's going to be an evolution, and we're here though to help with this part. I think that it's specifically like back to your episode where your son had the incident, the tragic incident, that was okay, but the it
Yeah,
tapped into that fear body that you had. And that's when I left you a bunch of messages because I'm
yeah,
like, oh my God, I know that fear body. I think because the fear body is that you're going to lose a child, right? Like that's your ultimate fear. And, most people's biggest fear is death. And I struggle with that too. Like I'm still human, and even though I'm very woo woo and tapped in, like I am working through that right now. Like I'm asking my team to show me. And one of the things they've showed me is, I do believe that we come back multiple times. That's my belief system. I'm pointing because my dog's over here. So part of the reason why dogs usually have so much peace, animals have so much peace when they pass away, is because they come here remembering and they know they're just going to recycle.
oh my god,
Yeah.
now that just gave me full body goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's profound. Like I know, like this, my dog I'm pointing at was a dog I had before. Like I knew it the minute I met him, and it was part of my awakening when I realized that with him. And they know they're going to be coming back. And so to me, that just came in my mind when you were just sharing, because I'm still trying to understand it too. But it's kind of like I think that we go to a place where we're not so attached to the fear body, because that's something I've been working on as well this past few years in relationships and fear of loss and abandonment. Oh, I mean, all that stuff is what I'm also here to alchemize. But when I look at that, because they know, right? So we don't have that knowing, but I do feel like we're going to be popping open those DNAs of remembrance. So we have more peace about that same kind of cycle. So therefore, we're not like so attached to those fear bodies that we become more of observers, and we're more in the present moment, and we're able to have more acceptance. Not that we're not going to have loss and we miss people in the physical sense, and all of
Yeah,
that is part of the human condition.
yeah,
But I feel like the period between the disabling of the fear and the returning to love and acceptance is just going to become shorter. And yes, I do think, who knows how many years, centuries, I don't know how far away it's going to be, but I do think that we are going to find a place where we're able to live for thousands of years, and we're going to be in a different form. And because we're light. The
yeah,
word human is hue man. It's the hue is means light, and man is human form. So the word human means light in human form, light in man form. And so I just feel like we're going to be, over time, over centuries, returning more to our light essence.
Yeah.
And yeah, because we're energy, and I know I'm getting way past that, but
No, I love that. And
it's
what you're saying also, it's e- even knowing that and getting to that point, you can still experience, and this is something I wanted to ask you, because I know you went through a really difficult divorce. And it's not it's a loss in a very different way, and there's so much pain, but it's like on the other side there's the growth, and there's like, so I would just love to hear your thoughts on this, because I also know that you support a lot of women who are going through that kind of transition.
Mhm. Yeah, I do. So what's coming up as you're asking that is, yes, I've actually been through two divorces, and both of them were, I mean, I didn't expect to go through it, didn't plan it. Nobody ever does. That's what's so hard. It's nothing that you ever prepare for or want, right? So there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of regret, there's just all the things, which is the lowest point of consciousness. So shame on the consciousness scale, is the lowest. Literally, it's right above very big illnesses and death. It's like it's a 10. Peace, hope, and love are,
Yeah.
around 3 to 500. So divorce like bottoms you out. And so the way that I've been able to make so much peace with it, and believe me, I still get triggered. I'm still working on it in real
Yeah.
time. Like I am not perfect because, I'm still dealing with, I co-parent with somebody that I wasn't meant to stay with. But the way that has helped me to make peace, and it's extraordinary, is the idea of soul contracts. So, we have this judgment mind, right? And I had it too. I was raised Church of God, and there was a lot of judgment around divorce. I was taught when I was younger that if you got divorced, you were going to hell. I mean, the black and white line was like
Wow.
very rigid. And, people get kicked out of churches, which is actually the opposite of what the Christian faith is supposed to be doing. But okay, like I get very frustrated with very judgmental people that are seemingly religious. Anyway, back to this. When you are waking up and can come into maybe the idea of soul contract, for me, it will bring a lot of relief, because what it says to me is, there is a human paradigm and rules around the church, especially if you're been raised religious, get married in front of God until death do us part, and it's legal, and we have to get all these systems involved, which if you really look at it from the outside, is actually kind of humorous. But I understand why a lot of those structures are in place, because it does make it sacred and all that. But when you have to untie it, that's when you're like, it's really difficult to untie from a legal perspective. Just
Yeah.
anyone that's been through it, you're like, how is this is like harder than getting a gun. Like, how can I even anyway, the soul contract idea brought me so much peace, because what it taught me was, sometimes you go out of alignment with each other. And when you jump into this life, your kids choose you, you choose them, and you choose your partners, whether those are life partners or there's someone that you dance with for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And whether you legalize it or not, I mean, it's whatever you name you put on it, you have a soul contract with every person in your life. And you definitely have a soul contract with your intimate partners, and you are there to help each other grow. As wonderful or as difficult as it is, the lessons that are there are to help you both grow, and that was an agreement that you had. And some of the soul contracts have an agreement that we'll reach a point where we will go our separate ways, and we'll play this thing out. And so, just to go a little more woo on it, very often we're playing out karma, where, maybe in one lifetime you were the one that cheated on somebody or stole from them or whatever it was. And then you're over in heaven and you're about to come into this life, and you're like, well, let's see, maybe this time let's switch. I'll be the one. And there's a lot of karma, balancing that happens. So this generation, us here right now, we are actually clearing karma. So for a lot of people, really, really difficult relationship issues have come up, especially if you are awakening. Like anything that is asking to be healed is coming up, and it will show up in your relationships. But we are clearing it. From what I've been told, those of us that are trying to ascend, like, we're not going to have to deal with that moving forward. We are here to heal it. And a lot of us are healing. I am definitely doing it, ancestral wounding, generational patterns around being, for me, it was women disempowerment and being victimized. And like, it is stopping with me. I am not passing this on to my daughter. And it's played out in two divorces. And it took me a while to be okay with it. I was very ashamed. I couldn't even, this is the first time this year that I've gone on podcasts and I will actually say 2 divorces. Usually if somebody says one, I'll just play it off. And now I'm like, you know what? I've been through 2 and they were both very different, but I also learned about soul contracts and like you don't have to be okay with it, but I'm okay with it. I'm not talking about you, but people listening, it triggers people, right?
Well,
But
I think
if
it's
you,
just
yeah,
empowering and inspiring to
yeah,
hear that. Like every time I'm vulnerable, or if I hear someone being vulnerable, I just feel, oh my God, someone needed to hear that.
yeah,
That's going to touch someone. That's going to help someone.
yeah. And, you know, I think so many people, and, you know, this is men too. I work with women, and this was me, that stay in relationships that are really not good for you. And, you know, you can tell when you've gone out of alignment. Now, I'm all for marriage working and trying to come back in alignment. And I mean, if you can do that, that's incredible. And you can stay focused on, you know, centering with each other. That's the goal. We all want that. But, you know, you can tell when you've moved out of soul alignment, you know, you can just feel it, where it's like, for me, it was so, I mean, we literally are just on different worlds. And, you know, like the father of my kids, like we came together to have those kids. We came together, you know, I had a supernatural experience through something that happened between us that was really tragic. It was the death of a loved one. And because of that, I had an awakening. And that was part of our soul contract, that in that relationship and in that conflict, I would wake up to some gifts that were latent. And, you know, he chose to go a different way and I chose to go a different way. And it's okay. It's okay. And I've raised my children now with, you know, is it easy? No, it's logistically really hard. It's emotionally very hard, but you know, us staying together would have been it would not have been, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just going to say this and then we can go to another topic.
Yeah.
Anyone that's in a relationship where, you know, your children are watching what love is. I don't, you know, I don't mean messing up and having occasional fights. Those are actually good for your children to see you recover and see you go back into forgiveness and however that plays out. But if you're in a marriage and you're staying together just because of the children and you think that you're supposed to martyr your happiness for the benefit and you're miserable and you're fighting, your children are witnessing what love looks like. And, you know, in my past marriage, love looked like living on separate sides of the house and literally not speaking. Like we had disdain for each other. It wasn't, we were not meant to stay together. And now, like, we're actually doing the co parenting really well. We've been through a lot of healing, but my children would have been raised with kind of like the paradigm I was raised with. And I played it out again in very different situations. But I just wanted to give that to whoever's listening.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it's like Jesus like came to me when I was going through it, and I stayed for years, and literally it was like, do all you can do. And it's literally in the Bible, like, then you don't have to do anymore. Like sometimes like it's enough. And when you get to heaven or whatever you believe happens next, nobody's up there looking at the number of divorces or engagements or whatever. That's not part of it.
Yeah.
It's like, how much did you love and how loving were you to yourself? Like how much did you honor your life and your purpose here? And your purpose is not to martyr your happiness to stay in a relationship because the church told you to, or because you feel like it's the best thing for the kids if that relationship is unhealthy.
So going to, and this is also like, you're just speaking truth and I feel it. And, but yet like, I haven't experienced that. So, um, and but I do have clients, at least now, and people in my life who have either been in really difficult relationships or are going through divorces right now, and it's still raw, and a lot that were married to or in a relationship with a narcissist, or like these.
Yeah.
Are your thoughts on, like, if we want to just take this perspective, like these were soul contracts, and there's a reason this person was in my life and it's all for my greater and higher good. When it comes to like abuse or narcissism or things like that, is it like that person's soul was like, yeah, I'm going to come down and be a narcissist, or I'm going to come down and make your life a living hell? Like, and we're like, yeah, let's do that.
It's such a loaded question, Julia, because I've been through it, and I went through it with my dad and then both of my marriages, and it's like an epidemic. I mean, it's something that I'm searching for answers to as well. My opinion on a lot of it. Now, the answer kind of always is it depends, but the I do believe, based on my experience, that especially those of us that are kind of in the starseed area, or you're just here to love, like you are usually when there's a narcissistic relationship, there's an empath and a narcissist. And the
Mm.
empath, yeah, is the very loving. And I've got a million videos on this on my YouTube channel. It's because I've been through it and I've studied it. And that's usually how it plays out. That's a whole podcast in itself. That's literally
Yeah.
an entire,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
so I do think that we have free will, right? And so usually you can look at, there's a lot of identifying like names for the stages of being with a narcissist, but I'm just going to tell you from a spiritual perspective. I do believe the narcissist has a choice because they have chosen to be with you to turn right or to turn left. This is my experience. And that being with you gave their soul a choice to, even though there are soul contracts, we still have free will, right? Like you can still not fulfill what you were supposed to. And I mean, we have free will. So I do think that very often the narcissist has the opportunity because that bond is there. I've never heard this said, but this is just coming through
Yeah.
to go into the light. And usually that empath, that person that is so loving and has given into that cycle, like you are opening a portal for them, like and they can choose. And very often the narcissist has, like, there's a spiritual component, there's just dark energy there. And I don't fully understand it, but I do know from what I've experienced that dark energy, you have a choice, and that dark energy feeds on that, they call the relationships their supply. It feeds on that, right? And so in that moment with you, they have the decision: am I going to keep feeding for my own? Because the narcissist, they're wrapped in ego, right? And the empath is wrapped in heart. And and so for a moment in time in the beginning, they call it love bombing, but I do think sometimes there's that window where they can come, into the light, but it means that they have to let go of that ego.
Mm.
And not that totally, because ego can serve us in a lot of different ways. Ego is not all bad, but narcissists are 100% driven by ego. Like when they have full blown NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, they've gotten so far down the scale that it's like sociopathy. They literally cannot feel empathy. And when you're with someone like that has totally manipulated the relationship, like it is so destructive. I know because I've been through it twice. And it literally it threatens to destroy. So anyone that's going through that, I send you so much love. I've got a lot of resources on that. You can recover. But know that the choice that you have made to dance with them, you can end it, but the only one that's going to end it is you by your choice. And that narcissist is really, really good at manipulating you. But I mean, it takes, and I know I've been through it, it takes
Yes.
like, you literally have to reprogram yourself because they have some capacity to do this programming because they're playing with your emotions. And
Yeah.
I think that, so your question was, that they come in and decide? I think it's a choice. I think it's a choice. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've been with someone like that, but it's like you go from seeing someone that was kind of seemed to be really loving, and then something happens and they like turn into kind of a monster. That's what I've been through, and people have. And it's like,
Yeah.
I do think very often there's like a soul agreement with some dark energy. And I'm just
Yeah.
going to leave that there. That's a really
Yeah.
loaded conversation, but I think that
Totally. And we'll put
just
the
like for all
resource.
of us, yeah. And we can, like us choosing to go into the light. I mean, we're choosing to go to a higher frequency and to fill our light bodies and to return to love. And that means a lot of things. And the same as the dark, and we have a choice to go either way.
I had a relationship with a narcissist when I was younger, and I did a numerology reading, and he was the numerologist guy was like, don't tell me anything. And he picked out the date, like the year that the narcissist came into my life, and also told me that was part of my life lesson. Was he's like, you actually broke the code by finding Alex and marrying him, because
Yep.
your lesson was about like basically not losing yourself to someone else. And he pinpointed also the date
That's
that I met
crazy.
my husband, which was so crazy too. But I almost think
Let
from
me put,
like,
I want to piggyback on that real quick,
yeah,
because it's one thing that I didn't point out. That's exactly what you just said is, if you are in that situation, you are here to learn the lesson of self-love. Like that's what came through me. And that is what it is, because that kind of relationship, that's amazing that you have that accurate of reading. If you are in that, it's literally siphoning your self-love away. And so you are in agreement to have this relationship because your soul is calling you to have the most profound awakening of your self-love, that you choose yourself over whatever is going on. And it takes a rewiring, but I
Oh.
guarantee you it's like 100% of the time is the lesson that you're here. And so it's wonderful that you met someone who can reflect that back to you.
And then there's this other piece as you were speaking. This was a conversation I had recently. I have not yet released this interview, but it was like mind-boggling. But he referenced something about it was it's a children's story, and I can't remember who the author is, but two souls, that one soul is saying, I want to learn forgiveness, and the other soul is like, I want to help you. And he said, okay, I have an idea. We'll go and incarnate and I'll be awful to you. And then we'll both forget, but then you'll learn forgiveness for me. But just know that like, I'm not going to remember either. And it's just like the idea of like, maybe there's that too. Maybe it's the narcissist is like, I'm going to go and just be this awful person so that you can experience this. And then maybe we switch it around. But like, and again, I haven't gone through this, so I don't know if this would ever help someone, but I like the idea of the soul being love and all of this being for the higher and greater good.
100%. And I align with everything you just said. And you can call it a lot of different things,
Yes.
karma or that agreement, but yes, I've heard that from so many people. And, it's the one thing I want to impress on people is and I've said it a lot, but it's choice. And this is why I do the work that I do. And I know that you do as well, that the coaching for people is, when you're ready to do and I hate saying work, it's work, but it's also so much fun.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. We need a new
it's,
word for that.
I know but it's choice. And
Yeah.
so, I do believe if we don't, and the word lessons loaded too, because we're not being punished. It's
Yeah.
a lesson your soul has chosen, right? To grow, to amplify, to come into more alignment with who you are. But it's always your choice, because
Yeah.
you can choose to keep repeating and to stay in that cycle with that narcissist.
Mhm.
And you can, and you just give yourself love away. I mean, I know I've done it. I've did it for years. And but the choice to choose self-love, like you said, when you do break the code, I mean, that is when you break the code. That is when you're like, this stops here. And sometimes it's the hardest choice you've ever made. It's like, I have to, because there's all this like addictive energy in it. It's a very
Yeah.
loaded, experience.
And
And
I
so yeah,
think,
so that yeah.
and Karin, it brings me back to what your purpose and your mission. It's like the remembrance piece can only help you get there faster,
Mhm.
right? I
It
can
is,
only
yeah.
imagine, like, for me, and I'm still in this awakening, but like I'm looking at difficult relationships in such a different way. I'm looking at past difficult experiences in such a different way. It's so freeing. And it's not like I don't have anxiety or worry or any of that stuff, like still human, but it is that feeling isn't so heavy anymore. It's so liberating.
I love that you use those words. Well, what you're talking about is a level of consciousness. And so, liberating means light, right? So whenever you feel a sense of lightness or relief and that liberation, it means that you've made a choice that's in alignment with your soul, because things that aren't in alignment with who we really are feel dense, and they feel horrible to our bodies because your body wasn't meant to hold it. Primarily the feelings of shame and regret and guilt, like those are the lowest points of consciousness. And it literally makes you sick. It will cause cancer. It does. It goes to
Yeah.
all your organs. And when you hold it, it's because your body, as a light body, it doesn't resonate with who you really are. And
Yeah.
so in that remembering the path, the evolution that you just described, and by the way, we're all still in the awakening. You're
Yeah.
never done.
Yeah.
But the pathway, I think part of the release point is when, and people fight me on this in the comments. It's interesting when I hear back and I'm like, oh, well, you're still there in blame and everything. I've been cheated on, I've been lied to, I've been defrauded. All the stuff, right? All the stuff. I've chosen to. Okay. So I'm going to say that again.
Mhm.
I didn't have to do anything. I could have
Mhm.
stayed in victim mode and blame mode forever and ever. And this is what I teach constantly. And you know what? That serves you in the world because you get a lot of sympathy. And I did for years. You get to point fingers, you get to join groups, you get to join anti-narcissist groups, you get to do this, you get to point at exes, men suck. You get a lot of support there. Okay. When you beat that drum, the ego. I had to decide, I'm like, and I'm still working on it, but it's like, I know that when I'm blaming, the resonance of that is shame, because when you blame someone, there's shame inflicting on another person. So even just some discourse I had with the dad of my kids this week, I literally had to stop myself from doing it the same way and go back and attack. And I was like, if I attack, I'm trying to shame him. And I know that things come full circle. How can
Mm,
I elevate? How can I go back to self-love? It doesn't mean I'm going to agree to
mm,
the negative and unhealthy stuff. It doesn't mean that. It means
mm.
me putting a boundary up, me returning to self love, which I did. And I just said, you have the right to stay where you are, but I'm not going to resonate there. And I refrained literally for one of the first times from sending him a blaming message back. And this literally just happened 2 days ago. And I can't even tell you, that night he sent me like this apologetic, it was a message I'd never received. And he said, that he just had a moment and he started praying. And I mean, I can't tell, like those shifts of energy when you choose to do something different, like
Oh,
this collective shift that we're talking about, you affect everybody around you, but it's up to
and
you.
then it's a ripple effect too, because
It
who
is.
knows what his energy and what a phone call that he made that night to someone else who then do
100,
like I just like see it just spreading. Just
100%. And that's what we're here to do. And that's why when you said you feel relief, like when we can step out of that blame body, step out of that, like staying in that pain. And, I've done so much work on like detaching from that pain body, because we're really trained to stay in it and
yeah,
talk about it forever and feel it and relive it. And it just stays and it makes you sick. And it's like
yeah.
that liberation and freedom when you can look at it and you can more observe and pull yourself back, set your
Mhm.
boundaries, react with love, and just say, it's not okay. It's not that it's okay what they did. It's not, that's not what
Yes.
it is. It's, I am not going to engage in that anymore. And I'm in charge of my being, my consciousness, and I'm going to elevate back up to love. I'm going to do this differently. And it
Mhm.
relates to what you're doing right now with the collective manifesting. And it's like, you don't know. So that was an important point. Like, you don't know the phone call, what your kids witness, the energy they feel when they walk in, how you literally pick new timelines. That's what's so
Yes.
cool. You literally
Yeah.
are shifting timelines like moment to moment to moment. We just shifted some timelines for people.
I know. I know. And as you're talking, it's like I think for a lot of people, they know, okay, yes, I know I'm supposed to forgive, and that that is the only way that I'm going to release it. And I don't,
Mhm.
but it's sometimes it's the way it's said and it's the moment that you hear it. And I just like, there's something in your words and in this idea. I just know someone's going to feel it. Um, I
Yeah, and
want
the
to go
word
back.
forgive, I want to just say real
Yeah.
quick, just this is a quick switch for people.
Yeah.
Y'all have heard this before. It's not about the other person. If
Yeah.
you flip the word forgive around, it's actually to give forth. So what you're doing is you're taking that energy out of your body that you're holding, which is the negative energy, which is the lowest point of consciousness, and you're saying, I give that forth. It's not that you're saying it's okay what you did. You're
Yeah.
giving it back to source, creator, maybe to them, wherever. Just
Yeah.
you're removing it from carrying it yourself, and
Yeah.
therefore you've liberated yourself. That's what it means.
Oh, wow. I love that so much. And I literally could talk to you all day, Karin. I want to circle back on the hawk thing because it was like at the tip of my tongue because I wanted to know just because of your awakening and your gifts. Like, is that are those spirit guides sending you that? Is that like what is your interpretation of that and how you're communicating with the other side?
Mm. It's become my favorite thing. I have felt a very strong reconnection with Earth, and it's like even shamanic things. Just and there are, of course, there are a lot of words around it, and it's really just returning to God incarnate. So when I had my awakening and I went through all these supernatural experiences, I had this overwhelming understanding that we're all one. So the answer is yes and yes and yes. It's kind of like when you're thinking, well, who's giving me the message? Is it my guides, my angels, my higher self, God? Yes. You're literally like you're all in orchestra, right? Like it's
Oh,
all one. So yes, like it's an understanding. It's like everything's working together, and there's this beautiful symphony of sacred connection that, as long as, if you can walk around and literally as you go off after you hear this today and you just decide, I am not going to doubt anything. So this is how I live my life. Like I'm like, if something shows up and it might be a sign, it might be my grandmother,
it
God,
is.
it just is. How about just stop doubting it? So when Hawk shows up, like I kind of have an agreement, it's with the, I didn't set it one day. I just kind of know that it's just a knowing. Like when Hawk shows up, it's a reminder that I am protected and I stand in awe. Hawk, I just very connect. I don't know if you can I've got, here, I'll show you all these feathers. So when I walk, Hawk drops feathers for me all the time. So literally like,
Oh my
they just,
gosh.
yeah, they just, so
Wow.
I find these on my walk. So this is also, but this is my thing, right? This is confirmation that I am being watched. And so it's all of it. And so when I have appreciation, I send to the Hawk, I just send like energy of love. I love you so much. You're so beautiful. And I just say, thank you to this grand orchestra of sacred messaging and support. You
Mhm.
know, Abraham Hicks says that if you could see the amount of divine energy around you and focus solely on you. So I feel special because this happens, but you're all special. We're all
No.
profoundly special in our own way. And if you like, I will agree that I feel like the most special person on earth, but you should all feel that way. And so
Mhm.
you have so many beings wanting to communicate with you, just like you would if you passed on the other side and you had loved ones that what you would want to communicate with them. So it is a constant, I'm looking outside because like birds will land here all the time. Just accept and know that you are so divinely supported and that every piece of that communication is meant for you. Nothing that you see is a mistake. That's how I live
Oh,
my life.
beautiful. Oh my gosh.
100%.
Okay, Karin, I know we're like at time and I'm just like, oh, how do I bottle this all up? But how do people connect with you? What have you got going on in your world right now? I know that this is like, I know this is going to resonate so much with so many.
I love it. I love knowing that the ripple effect is in full force right now. It's so
Mhm.
beautiful. So thank you for having me be able to open that. You never know what's going to come out.
I
Um,
know.
So I'm on all the platforms as Dr. Karin, and it's Karin. You have to spell the word doctor out on Instagram. And I have, well, right now there's a free soul inventory that people can take. It's at soulinventory.com. And it's just like a 12-point quiz. It'll kind of show you like where your gaps are in life. And that's a really good way to start to connect with me. But I do have group programs that are coming up. I don't know when this is going to air, but you can look on my feeds and see if my next, so I have a program coming up called Force of Nature that I'm really, really excited about, for women that want to remember who they are and tap into that, all that earth energy and all that, healing energy that we've been talking about. So
I
yeah.
love
So
that.
look for it in my,
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. And I'll put all the links in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Karin, I'm so grateful for you. I have a feeling like we're definitely going to continue
For
this. Like,
sure.
I think I'm going to meet you someday very soon. Like,
Oh, I love
there's a
that.
reason that you came into my life for sure.
I feel that too. I'm just so excited again. Like it's a
Yeah.
pleasure watching and listening to all that you're putting out there.
Mhm.
And I just applaud you for your transparency. The gift that you're giving these listeners is profound and changing lives. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much.